Hi, and welcome to Experience Points by University XP. On Experience Points, we explore different ways we can learn from games. I'm your host, Dave Ang from Games Based Learning by University XP. Find out more by going to universityxp.com. On today's episode, we'll cover weaknesses of games based learning. Games based learning is a serious method for us to meet the needs of our students in a way that is both engaging and impactful. However, there are still some limitations to games based learning that need to be considered before educators can use it in practice. Limitations of games based learning include the outcomes of our students, the cost of investment, as well as the shift in priorities. This episode will address these weaknesses of games based learning, as well as some of the best practices when creating new games based learning systems. Not all games based learning systems use digital implementations. While it may be interesting and novel to use a PC, tablets, consoles, or laptops for games, there can be some significant costs involved. These costs include the physical strain from our players and students from using these devices for so long. This repetitive stress can often be linked to other functions of living and learning in a sedentary lifestyle. In addition, games based learning programs often focus on consistent engagement and attention of players and students. That consistent engagement can be tiring, as well as decrease the attention span of users. That decreased attention span can hinder the active involvement and engagement of players for other parts of games based learning systems, or the outcomes of the program as a whole. Games based learning is often seen as a novel implementation of learning, education, training, and development. For those who are trained and have a background in the process, it can be a minimal investment in time and resources. However, for others who are not as well versed, the practice could be a waste of time in learning and implementing the structure and logistics of the game. That waste of time could also manifest itself in the financial cost of the program. While tabletop and other physical implementations of games based learning for teaching, training, and development can be relatively low cost, the creation of the program often isn't. Serious time and resources have to go into customized programs for clients, organizations, and institutions into creating games based learning that fits student outcomes as well as organizational philosophies. Lastly, the logistics of implementing games based learning can be a heavy investment, especially for face to face or tabletop programs for companies that host mostly remote teams. The necessity of bringing everyone face to face could represent a big impact on time and productivity for the entire company. Digital and remote application of games based learning could address this, but often at the cost of player engagement and involvement. Really great games are truly engaging and intrinsically motivating. However, an effective application of games based learning means that students meet the stated learning outcomes. When players become too involved in the game, those outcomes can be thrown by the wayside. So, the shift of focus away from learning and towards engagement is often a challenge associated with games based learning. In addition, priorities towards the game and away from learner outcomes often results in the lack of measured results. Great applications of games-based learning engage users as well as meet all stated learning outcomes, but those outcomes cannot be determined if they are not measured. Lastly, negative behaviors can come about from games-based learning. This is especially true in competitive environments, scenarios, simulations, and serious games where different teams of individuals from the same organization compete against one another. While competition as a game structure is necessary and relevant for many games, it can often be used against the greater purpose of the program in games based learning. Successfully implemented games based learning programs should be wholly aligned with learner outcomes, business goals, and organizational philosophy. Like a great game theme, goals, mechanics, and objectives should align with what you want your learners to do at the end of the program. That alignment comes from getting the management of the organization on board. It's true that some executives can be resistant to using games based learning. However, demonstrating its effectiveness, efficacy, and outcomes through past examples, case studies, and actual gameplay can help you go a long way towards developing social proof. Social proof is most evident when the feedback is positive and immediate. Much like a positive feedback loop in gaming, getting that one up, gold star, or mission objective is an incredibly powerful feeling. That means that your users and students must also get that immediate feedback through applications of their learning in their everyday work. Immediate application is a hallmark of successful games based learning design. Lastly, effective engagement is accomplished through the constant adjustment based on player capabilities. Games should be difficult enough to continue to engage and entice the player, but not so difficult that they would stop playing. They should also not be so easy that it's not even worth it to play. This episode covered the limitations of games based learning. That included the outcomes of students, the cost of investment, as well as the shift in priorities. Best practices on successful use of games based learning focused on four major areas. Those areas included alignment between learning outcomes, organizational philosophy, and business goals. It also includes recruiting and advocating for managerial support and the development of social proof through active feedback. Lastly, player engagement is based mostly on scalable difficulty. The game should be as challenging as the player's individual abilities. I hope you found this episode useful. If you'd like to learn more, then a great place to start is with my free course on gamification. You can sign up for it at universityxp.com/gamification. You can also get a full transcript of this episode, including links to references in the description or show notes. Thanks for joining me. Again, I'm your host, Dave Eng from Games Based Learning by University XP. On Experience Points, we explore different ways we can learn from games. If you like this episode, please consider commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Subscribing is absolutely free and ensures that you'll get the next episode of Experience Points delivered directly to you. I'd also love it if you took some time to rate the show. I live to lift others with learning, so if you found this episode useful, consider sharing it with someone who could benefit. Also, make sure to visit University XP online at universityxp.com. University XP is also on Twitter at university_XP and on Facebook as University XP. Also, please feel free to email me anytime. My email address is dave@universityxp.com. Game on.